Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, July 10th, 2025. This is live stream 1211. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then sometimes we'll take a first look at a game. Could be a role-playing game, might be a board game. Or maybe I'll discuss a topic related to our hobby, or possibly just hang out after the news and chat with the folks hanging out. You never know until I let you know ahead of time what's going to be happening. So tonight, we're going to be diving on in and taking a look at the Lancer role-playing game. This is a hefty book here, folks. This is from Massif Press and Dark Horse Publishing, or I just refer to them as Dark Horse. So this is a science fiction role-playing game. I believe this is mecha fueled. So we're going to be diving on in, taking a peek at that tonight. Now, should mention, if you're tuning in to see the first look at Lancer, keep in mind we always tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So it'll probably be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we jump on into that. So if you're watching live, kick back, relax, enjoy yourself. Yeah, probably had a hard week already. Just kick back. Now, of course, if you're watching this after the fact, maybe even on Memorex, there are timestamps in the show notes and possibly even in the timeline of the video, depending on the device you might be watching this with. So if you want to jump past news, you certainly can, although we've got a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool news pieces tonight. Might have a few things that catch your interest as well. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for our latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. You must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. Mainly how I keep most of the unusual commenters at bay. So, of course, if you do check that box, you want to say howdy, by all means, chime in. I'll do my best to respond. If you've got a question, comment, fire away. First out the gate tonight is our pal Sean O'Donnell, followed by Semper Buffo. Keithulu's with us. Square Peg Makes Games is also hanging with us in chat, as is the Vampire Castle Gaming, Chris Lundgren, Jeff Moore, W. Forge, and Mike. And I will not be shocked, the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is lurking in the shadows. She is one of our chat moderators. Yes. For some reason, my voice is kind of scratchy today. I can normally get an idea of how much oomph my voice is going to have for the show in the opening couple of minutes. And it's sort of like, I could go with a lozenge. So welcome, everybody. Let's dive on into the news, because now available in print and PDF, from Prismatic Wasteland and Exalted Funeral is Prismatic Wisdom. Here's what I know. A blog is a beautiful thing. The least private form of diary, the sketchbook that is simultaneously a gallery, the social media that is slow enough that thoughts aren't drowned out by noise and may instead foster long-lasting communication and collaboration. But it is vulnerable to the enshittification and platform decay that we humans of the earliest part of the 21st century know all too well. But not books. W.F. Smith, who happens to be the author of the Prismatic Wasteland blog. Prismatic Wisdom is a compilation of Prismatic Wasteland blog posts between 2021 and 2024, a kaleidoscopic deep dive into tabletop role-playing design. This is one of the best practical toolkits for the OSR and beyond. What started as a digital collection of musings has now become a full-color tome of essays, tools, and spicy takes. Inside, you'll find notorious posts like Hex Crawl Checklist. The Keep on the Borderland is full of lies. Basic procedure of the OSR. Encounter checklist. Spell lists are not magical. And much more. The 200-page A5 sized hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $40. And you may recall I had mentioned I had a package arrive from Exalted Funeral, and hey, Prismatic Wisdom's in it. So I got to be honest, I don't think we're going to do a first look at this because they're essentially articles, they're blog posts, but I will be sharing my review. I got a lot of reviews on the very near horizon, and got to say, this looks pretty cool. Looks very interesting. Yes. Moving right along, now available in print and PDF from Goodman Games, is Dungeon Crawl Classics Tome of Adventure number 7, Magic, Gods, and Demons. And here's the skinny. 8 DCC RPG adventures in one volume. In these pages, you'll find extraplanar realms, treasure-filled towers, demon-cursed caverns, crumbling gothic manses, and radiation-scarred alien worlds to explore. Battle demons, gods, and monsters alike as you quest for gold, magical items, and glory, or for sheer survival. Within this book, you'll find Hole in the Sky, Tower the Black Pearl, Intrigue at the Court of Chaos, The One Who Watches from Below, Dragora's Dungeon, Bride of the Black Manse, The Making of the Ghost Ring, and Against the Atomic Overlord. And they range from level 0 up to level 5. Most of them are ones, to be honest. I think 4 of them are actually level 1s. From intrigue in the Court of Chaos to contesting against the Atomic Overlord, Dungeon Crawl Classics are never ordinary. And now 8 more classic DCC adventures are compiled in one beautiful tome to challenge and entertain your players. This 208-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $59.99. Keep in mind, if you want to get that free PDF, you gotta order from Goodman Games. Because I don't think if you order from Amazon, I don't think there's a code. Not positive. So I just say, hey, yeah, the price is the same. Amazon, Goodman Games, might as well get that free PDF with it. Now, if you want to just get the PDF alone, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $41.99. And I will say that pricing seems off. Because for the most part, Goodman Games is usually pretty solid with their PDF pricing. It's normally around half price with the bigger hardcovers and things like that. Whereas with the Dungeon Crawl Classics Adventures. I think off the top of my head, normally print with PDF is $10.99 and just the PDF alone is $7.99. I don't know. The price just seems a little off for me. That's all I'm saying. Now, with the hardcover, with the PDF, it's about the going right. But yeah, $41.99 for a 208-page PDF. I don't know. And the Madman is with us tonight. Good friend of the show, Kathy Evans and Lord Cost 2000 have also arrived on the scene, as has Chris Lundgren. Mike says, DCC has artwork. I would love a graphic novel with it. Anyone know if there is one? Not to my knowledge. If you're a fan of Doug Kovacs, I believe he has some art books out there. And I could have swore one of them, I don't want to say it's a graphic novel per se, but I thought it has kind of a narrative going on with it. Alrighty. On to our next news piece. Cubicle 7 Games has begun taking pre-orders for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Sea Wardens of Clothique. And I've got the dope. A guide to the inhabitants of the maritime kingdom of Clothique and port of Tor Corulai. Here we go. Get ready. We're going to have some oddball fantasy names here. The lands of Clothique have a wildness to them. In comparison to many other kingdoms of Ulthuan, they are windswept and untamed. In ages past, these lands were threatened by Norse raiders and dark elf corsairs, but the creation of these shifting isles prevents hostile fleets from navigating to Clothique's shores. Freed from obvious dangers, the nobles of Clothique indulge in intrigues and temptations, allowing hidden threats to inveigle their way into the neglected corners of their orderly realm. Agents of chaos and the dread king of Nagaroth stir up trouble and pave the way for a future conquest of the kingdom. You'll find a guide to the land of Clothique, including an in-depth look at the port city of Tor Corulai and the mysterious places and artifacts that may be found there. Several high elf patrons, including Prince Deloran and his children, Princess Latharis of House Starshard, and Siren Fleetcrest, the master of the palace grounds. The book also gives details of several ongoing interests these individuals are involved in. You'll find several threats to Clothique and Ulthuan, such as the Norse infiltrator Revna Tharvig, monstrous creatures such as the dreaded Kraken, and the capricious Spite Suliu. Suli? Take it a wild stab in the dark there. You'll also find inside creatures of Ulthuan, including the White Lion, Flamespire Phoenix, and Swift Feather Rock. New adventure hooks and ideas, including a plot by Nagaroth's most dangerous agent to befoul the rivers of Clothique. Expanded intrigues, including ideas on how to run a counter-intrigue such as a spying mission, subterfuge of enemy agents, and assassinations. This 96-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $34.99. If you pre-order, you'll get the PDF immediately. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so right now over at DriveThru RPG for $19.99. The physical book is expected to arrive in the fourth quarter. Always love to see new Warhammer fantasy roleplay releases. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the old world doesn't draw a lot of energy away from Wifrip. Fingers crossed. Talking about pre-orders, Monte Cook Games is also taking pre-orders, and it is for the latest Old Gods of Appalachia supplement. I've got the lowdown on Dig Your Own Grave. Here, hold this shovel for me a moment, won't you? And this lantern. It's nearly empty, but that's all right. Don't have to go far. Just a little wander through a dark woods into the heart of what it means to be human and alive, to be afraid and brave, to know the monsters and know thyself and wonder if they're one and the same. Who are you? Where do you come from? Who relies on you and who can you rely on? Old Gods of Appalachia characters are rich and complex, and their ties to their world and each other are every bit as important as their skills and stats. Dig Your Own Grave helps you easily build and advance characters you will love and never forget. A unique choose your own background system helps you forge a backstory and motivations that will tie your character deeply to the setting. New systems for connections and bonds to NPCs and other PCs further enrich your party and your game. Plus, get new foci, descriptors, and other character options. Create unforgettable, compelling, and perhaps even tragic characters for a world where bonds of love, loyalty, and family are constantly put to the test. Inside the book, you'll find 6 choose your own path style character backgrounds, decide who you once were, what terrible choices you've been faced with, and how these affect the character you are today. New non-player character connections, player character bonds, character arcs, and player intrusions to immerse you even further into the rich narrative and setting. New descriptors and foci. Become a disquieted protector who serves no master, a beloved sage who reads the leaves, or a plain-spoken explorer who whistles in the woods. Fantastic advice for playing horror role-playing games and getting the most out of your experience in an alternate Appalachia. Dig Your Own Grave is a supplement for, as I mentioned, the Old Gods of Appalachia role-playing game, and you must have the core book in order to utilize Dig Your Own Grave. You can pre-order the 128-page Old Gods of Appalachia. Knew I was going to say it once. Old Gods of Appalachia, Dig Your Own Grave hardcover for $44.99. The book is expected in August. There is no PDF available just yet. I'll take a guess. $22.99 will be the PDF price over at Drive-Thru RPG. Normally, Monte Cook Games is about half the cost, half the MSRP, I guess I will say, when we take a look at their PDFs. I'll tell you one thing. Nobody does better art than Monte Cook Games. Now, saying that, I'm not saying that Monte Cook Games has the best art out there. There are other companies I think are equal to it. But man, I'm telling you, every time we look at something, even just sharing some images for this news piece, there is some really sweet artwork here. Pretty nice. Pretty cool. Pete Strakulich is with us, as is Mr. C Tunes. Hey, we got another spider coming down. Ooh, is he gonna? No, he's off to the side a little. So probably didn't see any. Well, you may have seen a little blob on the side. Yes, it's the kingdom of spiders. I shouldn't complain. We haven't really seen hardly any. And I have sprayed with mint, so that kind of keeps them at bay. Anyway, Pete Strakulich was asking if I've reviewed Warhammer Realms of Chaos, The Lost and the Damned. That's not ringing any bells. Is that Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay? I don't know. Raven is also with us in chat, says they hope that Cubicle 7 continues their great support of WIFRIP 4th edition. Once again, fingers crossed. I'm wondering if we'll ever actually get to like the Vampire Kingdoms, because the vast amount of focus was, essentially the old world, because you were looking at a lot of previously published material that Cubicle 7 Games wanted to update, such as the Enemy Within campaign, the director's cut, which I've reviewed all of that. Pretty nice. Chris Lundgren asks, I was out of the room. Is this compatible with Call of Cthulhu? Anybody in chat want to answer that question for Chris? Man. Take a look. Take a look right there. It tells you right there. Right there. Look at the cover. Peace Records says 2007. No. No, I would say that would have been Fantasy Flight Games. That's what I would take a guess. Tessie Trekkie says The Lost and the Damned is one of the original Wifrip books. Rarer than a virgin in Alabama. Ooh, hopefully no one's watching in Alabama to take offense. Yikes. Captain Infinity, Time Travel Police, has joined us. Sweet. Very nice. I think I've said hello to everybody who's in chat right now. As far as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, I had first edition. I picked up first edition. I do believe I had Shadows over Bogenhofen. And I think that was it. I thought it was an interesting system. I wasn't too keen on like all weapons do 1d6 damage. It didn't matter what it was. It's like, oh, okay. Alrighty. Alrighty then. Moving right along, let's wrap up the news for tonight. The Shadowfinder Complete Bestiary for Shadow Dark is now out in PDF. And I've got the deets from Menagerie Press. Presenting the Shadowfinder Complete Bestiary, Shadowfinder's complete conversion of all 6 Pathfinder First Edition bestiaries. That's right. Every bestiary, 1 through 6, converted for Shadow Dark role-playing. Also compatible, obviously enough, with the Pathfinder First Edition role-playing game. Would it be? If it's converted over to Shadow Dark, I wouldn't think it would. So what is Shadowfinder? Shadowfinder is everyone's favorite 3.5e role-playing game reworked for Shadow Dark. See, that leaves me scratching my head a little bit as well, because I thought everyone considers Pathfinder First Edition to be D&D 3.75. Pizza Rackowitz says they just saw a copy of The Lost and the Damned sell for $450 yesterday. Huh. Pretty wild. Anyway, once again, the Complete Bestiary is the Shadow Dark conversion of all 6 Pathfinder bestiaries. Nearly 1,800 descriptions and stat blocks spanning a decade of Pathfinder content. Why Shadowfinder? Because the author loves Pathfinder. They ran organized play games for nearly a decade, starting with an ill-fated adventure into Lenorm-infested lands and traveling far and wide afterwards. They've met taverns full of real-life gamers and made long-lasting friendships at their tables. This 520-page PDF is available over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29. Well, I gotta say, that is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I don't think there's any artwork in the book, though. And sadly, I can only find a couple of images. The 2 dragons pages here to show. So if I remember correctly, I don't even think there's a preview. Maybe there was a preview on Drive-Thru RPG. But of course, it has sample page across every page. So much for that. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Every monster, every entry, I guess we'll say, from all 6 of the first edition Pathfinder bestiaries have been adapted for Shadow Dark. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Jeff Moore is with us tonight asking, has anyone looked at C7's Warhammer Old World role-playing game? Well, the player book is out, but the Game Master's Guide, or the GM book, is not. So I was kind of surprised. I thought they were aiming to release those at the same time, but I guess not. So there is a review out there for it. I want to say Dungeons and Dyslexia has a review of it. I think they might be the only one because they did the review based on the PDF. So there is that. Of course, I will be chatting with Cubicle 7 Games at Gen Con. Probably going to talk to my pal Dominic McDowell, which I didn't get a chance to talk to last year because he didn't come to the States. So I did my interview with, if I remember correctly, last year was the year I did the interview with my pal TS. So we'll see what's going on. So that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was mentioning Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to visit Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of those One Bookshelf sites, be sure to swing on by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up. Help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always support the outlet in one of 2 ways. You can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal, maybe buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Lovely. And big thank you to Spencer Lee and Agile Monk for extremely generous one-time donations by way of PayPal not too long ago. And of course, you can always become a member of our Patreon. And on every live show, I like to give a shout out to our Patreon members. Our $5 tier members, Gustavo Cavalho, Jason Lawman, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Marius Smith, Sean O'Donnell, and Telzek. Our $10 tier members, Dan Webb, Game Cat, Pete Strakolich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, and Tier 2 DM, as well as our $25 tier members, the aforementioned Agile Monk, as well as our good friend of the show, the Madman. So thank you, everybody. It is vastly, vastly appreciated. So as I mentioned, tonight we're going to dive on in. We're going to be taking a look at Lancer in just a few moments. Did want to mention a couple of things. Number one, I got some really bad news today. So you may recall talking about Gen Con because it's on the horizon. My best friend, Elliot Miller, had bought a ticket. He was going to take Amtrak from Chicago to Indianapolis. He was going to get in probably Friday morning, like wee hours Friday morning. Because if I remember right, I think it's scheduled to arrive at 11:50 p.m. on Thursday night. So then he was kind of hemming and humming about it. So now Elliot's going to go down there with me on Wednesday. So that means from the wee hours Wednesday morning through late Sunday, it's all Elliot Miller all the time. I don't know if my sanity will hold up. Actually, it's kind of funny. So Elliot works from home and he can't take Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off. So he's going to have to work on Wednesday, which, oh, shout out to Al sending thoughts and prayers. Thank you so much. So Elliot starts at about 6 a.m. Central, which would be 7 a.m. Eastern. So he must be working by 8 a.m. Eastern. It is 3.5 hours. Not stopping for gas, bathroom breaks, anything like that. From Elliot's house to the hotel we're staying at. Because the assumption is, because we've pulled this one before, we just get there early. Elliot logs into the guest Wi-Fi that's in the lobby, and then he'll spend the day working. So sadly, so it's not really bad news. It was a joke, right? So it was just a joke. I was just making funny. But sadly, we can't get our press passes till 4:00 on Wednesday. If we can still get them on Wednesday, I'm hoping. I haven't heard anything that it's changed. You know, it used to be, I think they still do have a retail day at, I think it was usually at the Hyatt. And, you know, years previously, press could just show up, get her badges. So that was from like 8:00 in the morning on. So whenever I got into Indianapolis, all I'd have to do, head into the Hyatt and get my badge. Well, they stopped doing that. So now they're doing it where it's press room 4:00 on. So, and then we got to race over and get our stuff into the auction by 6 p.m. And then there's a party we're supposed to be going to. It's like, jeez. Sean L says, geez, so you have to hurry up and wait all damn day. What will probably happen is I will try to check in early. I'm thinking maybe I can luck out and check in about 1:00. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Elliot's going to be hanging out the entire time at Gen Con, which actually helps me too, because I wasn't going to schedule any interviews on Thursday because I wouldn't have anybody to hold the monopod, even though it's got feet. I'm not going to risk, you know, a $2,000 camera on a monopod. Somebody has knocked that over and psh, that'd be the end of that. So if you're still curious who I'm talking to at Gen Con, I found out Monte Cook Games, I guess they're not planning on having any of the creatives there at the con. I thought that was kind of odd. So I am going to meet with people from Monte Cook Games. It just, no doubt, isn't going to be Monte Cook or like Shanna Germain or anybody like that. Our Bruce Cordell, I know he's another person who does a lot of stuff for Monte Cook Games, but we are going to talk to Monte Cook Games, and we're going to find out more about this upcoming new edition of the Cypher system. Of course, Cobalt Press, be talking to them. I'll also be chatting with, see, here's something that I thought was weird. I reached out to Mongoose Publishing because according to the Gen Con website, Mongoose is exhibiting there and they have 2 spaces next to each other. And then I reached out to their marketing person and she told me they're not going to be there. So I'm like, oh, okay. Which, to be honest, has happened before. I have seen Gen Con put a company on the exhibitor list and they're like, no, we're not going to be there. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, so Cosmos, MythWorks, Cobalt Press, Chaosium Inc. I'm waiting to finalize that probably next week. So I had considered reaching out to Robert Schwalb because he's usually there. But from my past experience passing by his booth, he's usually flying solo. So it'd be pretty difficult to interview him if he's, working his booth by himself. Although I would love to talk about Secrets of the Weird Wizard and Shadow of the Weird Wizard. So we'll see. We'll see. Like I said before, I'm probably looking at 10 to 12 interviews is what I'm pretty sure we're going to end up on. So, cause I don't go crazy at conventions anymore. I haven't done that in years. It used to be that we would have 8, 9 interviews in a day, but it was all audio. It wasn't video. It was all audio, but that was still pretty crazy too. Raven says they just pre-ordered Sea Wardens of Kothic. Might pick up Shadowfinder if their earlier question could be answered. I may have missed it. To be honest, I'm sure I wouldn't have the answer anyway. I'm just sharing news piece, right? Okay, so that was one thing. Gen Con, basically one thing. Other thing I wanted to point out is I will probably be going to Gamehole Con in October and covering that. So as far as my conventioning goes this year and into next, it's going to be Gen Con. It's going to be Gamehole Con. It'll be Polar Vortex. Well, I take that back because Polar Vortex will be after the Philadelphia area Game Expo because that is in January. So that is what I've got on the horizon. I do kind of wish I was going to San Diego Comic-Con, but it's like, oh, here's the other thing. I'm dropping my car off tomorrow. I'm dropping the Forester off because it's got an oil leak. It's had an oil leak since I bought it. And figured, yeah, better go get that taken care of before I drive down to Indianapolis. So fingers crossed it's not something insane. I have a feeling it's the oil sensor because I guess the 2010 Foresters are notorious for the seal breaking on those, and then they start leaking oil. Fingers crossed. All right. So tonight we're going to dive on in. We're going to be taking a look at Lancer from Massive Press and Dark Horse. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Golden, pure creamery butter, rich, flavorful, satisfying. That's what it takes for the finest buttered popcorn, and that's what we use. See for yourself why there's no Showtime treat to equal the crisp, delicious flavor of hot popcorn that's bathed in real melted butter. It's at the concession stand now.
Why do people like you like Big D best? Because Drury's beer means more fun in a glass. Yes, more fun in a glass. Drury's brews flavor in, sweetness out, so you can enjoy glass after glass with no full feeling after. That means more fun. Yes, more and more people like you like Big D best. Drury's beer, a perfect balance between flavor and lightness. Drury's beer, more flavor, less filling, more fun. That's why people like you like Big D best. How about joining them right now?
Wilkins decaffeinated coffee is best at any price.
Oh, you just say that because...
Because what?
Because it's true.
How did they get in these crazy positions? Playing Funny Bones, the game for people who love to laugh. Okay, back where you started.
The shin bone connected to the knee bone. The ear bone connected to the shoulder bone. The hip bone connected to the hand bone. The head bone connected to the head bone.
When you pick up a Funny Bone card, well, you'll just have to get Funny Bones, the game for people who love to laugh, by the makers of Monopoly. Funny Bones is a Parker game.
What is it?
I don't know.
Ejected from unexplored secret stratus, this giant, harder-than-steel piston disgorges strange creatures, inundating our world, twisting the emotions of women, distorting our men.
This is a piece we got off the mayor. Reflex action like a snake. Cut a snake in half and the two pieces go off in different directions.
These things take over a man's mind. He becomes a robot? A machine taking orders?
Join the hunt for the hiding place of terror. Find the breeding place of these globs of destruction.
In feeding, the mouth parts rupture the cells, convey the food to the stomach by a pumping action.
It's an adventure that'll burst your blood vessels with suspense. See the Brain Eaters.
That's not how you pour a beer. As Captain Infinity points out, you are absolutely correct, sir. Awful. Way too much head in that beer. Be about the width of your thumb. Not more than that. But yeah, funny enough, I'll share some of these old beer commercials from time to time. And it's almost always the same. It's like, there's been some, half of the mug is the head of the beer. I'd be like, really? Seriously? And I'm talking, they're pouring it on tap. So they're showing people at a bar getting it on tap. It's like, what? And a nonsense is that. All right. The question Raven had was, does Pathfinder have Mind Flayers, Githyanki, and Githzeri? I forget how the last one's pronounced. The answer to that would be no. Those are copyrights to Wizards of the Coast. So just like you wouldn't have beholders and you would not have displacer beasts, because those are also, aren't blink dogs? For some reason, I thought blink dogs were also, which kind of doesn't make much sense. So yes, anything that is, copywritten to D&D is not in Pathfinder. But the reality is, be pretty easy for you to come up with some alternative to stand in for it. I mean, don't we usually have, don't games usually call their avatars for beholders, eye tyrants and stuff like that? Daryl Erritt's with us, as is JD Sewell 3002. Daryl Erritt says they see the Lancer RPG often lauded in the RPG design Reddit. Sweet. Well, that is what we're going to be taking a look at. And you can thank Gustavo Cavalho, because without Gustavo, we wouldn't be taking a look at this. We would not. All right. So tonight we are diving on in and taking a peek at the core rulebook for Lancer from Massif Press and Dark Horse. The hardcover carries an MSRP of $60. If you want to grab just the PDF, you can do so for $25, and you would go to massifpress.com to place the order. Stephen from Roll for Combat is with us. Hey, Stephen, I still didn't get your email. You know what? I was doing some research, and it turns out that there are some IP addresses that Google sends mail through that have very low, and not reliability. They have been flagged for spam in the past. So I do know that my spam filter, my email filter, does take that into account. So Steven says they sent it multiple times in multiple email accounts. Weird. Now I get your emails from rollforcombat.com, and then I actually sent you an email from that. I don't have you blacklisted or anything like that. So I don't know what's going on. Anywho, welcome aboard, Stephen. So we're taking a peek at Lancer. Let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the core book. Let's get rid of this shrink on here. I'm curious what the page count is, because I did not see a page count. And as we can tell, we got a lot. I'm going to guess, well, part of it's going to depend on the paper stock. I'm going to guess 430, maybe more than it, maybe 500. Oh my gosh. Shit. It is. Well, if we count the character sheet, 432. I swear I pulled that right out of my ass. I was going to say 420, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to say 420. All right. So a few things to mention before we jump on in. We are not going to take a look at each and every page of this review copy here, but I do want to give you a very good feel for what you can find inside Lancer. I'm curious. I am seeing some people in chat mentioning that this is built on Robert Schwab's Shadow of the Demon Lord mechanics. That I did not know. For some oddball reason, I thought Lancer was built on the original Traveler rules. I don't know how that got in my head. Stephen also points out that they had created the Seriophage and Evil Eye for Pathfinder. Not Mind Flayers or Beholders at all. All right. So, and if there's like an adventure or something in here, if you're a player and your game master has picked up Lancer and maybe they just haven't started running it yet, there might be some spoilers here, folks. So you've been warned. Okay. So let's take a peek at the credits page here. Let's give credit where credit is due. So we've got getting started, introduction, playing Lancer, building pilots and mechs, missions, uptime and downtime, mech combat. We've got a compendium, which looks like that's going to take up the majority of the page space. The GM's toolkits, a golden age of a kind, on content, discomfort, and Lancer. Interesting. You know what? Let's read the back. Let's take a look at the back here. Get a better idea. Like I said, I know this is a mecha game. A Mud and Lasers tabletop role-playing game of modular mechs and the pilots that crew them. 15,000 years into the future, after a climate collapse ended the Anthropocene and plunged the Earth into millennia of desolation, a survivor humanity emerged resurgent to once again populate the world and step to the stars. Now humanity numbers in the trillions, a cosmopolitan and polyglot agglomeration of people organized by union, the central hegemon of the populated galaxy. From cradle, the eternal body stewards the affairs of the human diaspora, orients the time-lost cosmopolita. My God, what did they bust out? The thesaurus? Hey, yeah, what's a $5 word I could use? And it's like, yikes. And shepherds the steady growth of true utopia. At Union's heart, the dream of human dignity has been realized, but Lancer is not set in Union's heart. As ripples in a pond fade further from their origin, so too does Union's utopian project tremble at the edges. Union space grows, but there is resistance. Forgotten stellar empires rise from ancient ruins. Anthropocene humanity raised war banners against a utopia not of their definition. At Union's periphery, the old and jealous guard grow their strength and plot to steal power back. The children of progress find their appetites insatiable and begin to think that utopia should be made in their image. The center holds for now, but utopia's maintenance is a boxing match, seemingly without end. If its defenders do not fight, then the dream so bitterly won will be taken to feed the privileged few. The gentle galaxy would crumble to an unimaginable melee. At the trembling edges of Union space, squadrons and armies clash. The iconic machine of this age is the mechanized chassis, the mech, and the new heroes are their pilots. The best of them are Lancers. As a Lancer, you pilot a mech as unique as yourself. You are, by training, luck, circumstance, or work, one of the best. In this era near the Golden Age, you have one question to answer above all. Who do you fight for? Well, you know, when I start reading stuff and I haven't even glanced at it and it's like, I'm reading this cold. There are many times I am thankful that I do read books. Hey, you know, sometimes something catches me and it's like, oh, wait, shit. How the hell do you pronounce that word again? But for the most part, not too bad. Tessie Trekkie says, in summary, the center of union around Earth is essentially Star Trek Federation that's aware it needs to fight to survive and is actively expansionistic to remove threats to itself. Pete Strakowicz says, I thought I saw this on Prime Day. Get 3 for the price of 2 deals. It must have flew off the shelf. Maybe. Okay. So here we've got our introduction. The cavalry. Your character in the world of Lancer is a mechanized cavalry pilot of particular note, a Lancer. Whatever the mission, whatever the terrain, whatever the enemy, your character is the one who is called in to break the siege or hold the line. When the drop klaxon sound, it's up to them to save the day. All right, we're going to jump right into the rules. Sweet. Because this is kind of what I was kind of curious about. So this game uses two sorts of dice, 20-sided dice and 6-sided dice. I swear for a second, I thought this said the game uses two 20-sided dice. I was like, wait a second. Is this like a 2D20 game? This isn't from Modifius. What? So there you go. You got your 20s, your D6s. You might have a D3. Okay. Do we have a D66? I guess not. Always round up to the nearest whole number. That's one of the golden rules. Narrative play and mech combat. Lancer makes a distinction between freeform narrative play and mech combat, in which tracking individual turns and actions is important. During narrative play, players act naturally and spontaneously as needed. Time might pass more quickly, scenes might be shorter, and individual roles might count for more or less. Most of your game's story and interaction between characters will take place during narrative play. In mech combat, players act on their turn and are restricted in what they can do and how often, making each action much more impactful and tactical. Swapping between mech combat and narrative play is fairly natural, especially if you've played other games with turn-based combat. We have 3 types of dice rolls: skill checks, attacks, and saves. You make skill checks when your character is in a challenging or tense situation that requires effort to overcome. When you want to act in such a situation, state your objective, break down the door, decrypt the data, or sweet talk the guard. Then roll 1d20 and add any relevant bonuses. On a total of 10 or higher, you succeed. Result of 9 or less means you fail to accomplish your goal and may suffer consequences as a result. Although the Game Master can't change the target number, they have access to several tools that are explained later, such as declaring a skill challenge or deciding that your action is difficult or risky. Okay. Then in mech combat, attacks are any offensive actions against other characters, like firing a weapon or hacking into an opponent's mech. Attack rolls are similar to skill checks. Roll a d20, add any bonuses, but the target number isn't always 10 and usually depends on the defensive capabilities of your target. For an attack to be successful, it needs to equal or exceed the target's defense. Successful attacks are described as hits. So if the rules tell you that an effect happens on hit, that means it takes place when you make a successful attack. Some attacks also result in critical hits. On a roll of 20 or more, you perform a critical hit, which allows you to deal more damage and sometimes trigger extra effects. Lastly, saves are made to avoid or resist negative effects in mech combat. You might roll a save to prevent a hacker wrecking your systems, or to prevent being blinded by a flash grenade, or to drive away from an explosion. To save, you roll a d20, add any bonuses, but the target number can differ from 10 as it can with attacks. So we've got contested checks, talking about bonuses. 3 kinds of bonuses: accuracy, difficulty, and statistic bonuses. If you're wondering about the component quality here, the production quality, nice. Paper stock is solid. It does have a stitched binding, which pretty much it would have to have at this thickness. Yeah. We have, I think it's 1. Looks like we have a single bookmark. All right. Where are you hiding? Where are you hiding, bookmark? There you go. Yes, it's 1. Solid artwork. Got kind of a comic book vibe to some of it. So we have license levels. Unlike in other role-playing games, in Lancer, you don't need to track currency. Your access to mechs, gear, upgrades, talents, and other character options is instead restricted by licenses. Licenses represent access to valuable information, resources, and authority required to acquire mech gear and parts. They're tightly controlled by the major powers in Lancer and allow their holders unlimited access to their included gear. So it looks like we've got different experience levels, license levels, the LL. So it says they recommend, I take that back. It says a new pilot typically starts at LL0, an experienced rookie, and levels up to LL1 after their first mission. And it looks like we go to 12. Kind of curious what we've got as far as attributes. Kevin King's with us in chat. Welcome, Kevin. Good to see you once again. So we've got the pilots. And then we have different backgrounds. So we've got 20 backgrounds. So if you want to just get it randomly, you can roll a 20-sided die. So we have triggers. As a central character in the story, your pilot will have moments when their background, training, and personality shine through. These moments are your pilot's triggers, short phrases that describe key decisions and actions like apply fists to faces or get somewhere fast. Triggers are always accompanied by a bonus of +2, +4, or +6. When one of your character's triggers is relevant to a skill check, you get a bonus to the roll. For example, if you have +2 to apply fists to faces written on your sheet, anytime your character acts in a way that could be construed as applying fists to faces, you get +2 to the skill check. Nice. Kind of little bit along the lines of the like the foci that we've been talking about a little bit, taking a look at the various different Monte Cook Games releases that are built on Cypher system. So we've got creating your pilot. As far as I understand, the mechs, everybody's mech is going to be very unique. So we've got the mech structure. So we've got frames, size, armor, mounts, weapons, system points. So do we not have attributes? You know what? I'm going to cheat. I am going to take a look. Nope. So we have triggers, we have talents, core bonuses as well. Here's our loadout, hit points, max hit points, stuff like that. I see we've got grit. So I wonder if that might be an in-game currency. Possible. Danny Gable is with us in chat. I believe it might be a first-time visit for Danny with us live. So welcome aboard. Make yourself comfortable. Mark Hawkswell's with us tonight, too. Good to see you, Mark. Danny Gable says, I love grits. Hey, well, you know, I reviewed that role-playing game, Grit. Liked it. That was pretty cool. In fact, I'm trying to remember. One of you in chat purchased it in the used game sale. So base statistics. But I think these are for mechs. So creating the mech. Start by picking a frame. So you'll have hull, agility, systems, engineering. Add grit to your mech's hit points, SP, maybe that's structural points. Attack rolls and save targets. You get your first point of grit at LL1. Pick weapons and allocate them to your frame's available mounts. Let's say you have the unique tag. You can take weapons more than once. At LL0, you can only choose from the GM's weapon list. Choose systems up to your SP. Maybe those are system points then. Write down your core bonuses. Write down your relevant talents. So here's an example of creating. Is this creating a character or creating the mech? It might be both. So we have Taro Oda. To begin with, Oda's player grabs a piece of paper and jots down Oda's name and the license level, LL0 for now. The next step is for his player to choose a background and 4 triggers. Oda's player decides that Oda grew up in the colonies, so she writes down colonist as his background. Oda is also pretty astute and good at gunplay, so his player chooses the triggers read a situation, spot, take someone out, and survive, each at +2. In play, Oda's player can invoke his background to get additional accuracy on a skill check. I think that might be considered bonuses. The accuracy. And the GM can invoke Oda's background to increase the difficulty of a roll. Next, Oda's player writes down some gear that Oda always brings with him on missions. Looking at the list of available pilot gear, she chooses a medium signature weapon, Oda's hunting rifle, a light hard suit for maneuverability, and extra rations. She gets to distribute 2 points in mech skills, so she puts them both in hull. Lastly, Oda's player gets to choose 3 talents at rank 1. She takes crack shot, infiltrator, and leader. So there is your stat block. That's it for your example character. Then here's the mech. That is our stat block for the mech. And then it looks like going through the process of the character leveling up. Okay. So we got missions, uptime, and downtime. So structure of play. In Lancer, play sessions are typically structured around missions, sorties, actions, or plans with at least one specific objective or goal. A mission always has a clear goal and clear stakes. You'll establish both of these before you jump into the action. There's something that needs doing, and it probably needs to be done fast. This creates a natural tension in the story that can only be resolved through the actions of the players. Without player intervention, the outcome will be radically different, usually for the worse. So we got a briefing, preparation, reserves, boots on the ground. Some information about our first session. It's like some discussion of those different stages. There's quite a lot going on in here. This is pretty cool. But, you know, funny enough, it doesn't strike me as being overly crunchy at all. I would think probably the mech combat's got a little bit going on. But you figure just about everything else, you're looking at, you know, rolling a 20-sided die, you get maybe a bonus, possibly from your trigger or accuracy or what have you there. And you need to roll 10 or higher. There you go. I should also point out, if you notice the cover of this book, it is different than what you may be used to seeing for Lancer. And that is because this is the cover of the new print run. It is not a new print edition. It is a new print run. It just has new cover. When combat takes place in narrative play, the normal rules for skill checks apply. This allows combat to play out more like a movie than a tactical game. When resolving combat narratively, you don't need to track turns or make attack rolls. The whole combat might be over in just a few rolls. If there are no mechs involved, it's almost always preferable to resolve combat this way. Gives us some examples of that also. Downtime actions represent specific activities undertaken by pilots between missions. Unless the downtime takes place over an especially long period, players usually only get to make one downtime action per downtime. So you've got power at a cost, buy some time, gather information. Looks like we got quite a few. Get a damn drink. Get connected. Was that a little... That's funny. I just had a little spider. I mean, tiny. I barely caught it in my eye. And I'm like, what the hell is... You saw me looking. I'm like, what the hell is that? There's a little spider hanging off of my hat. Get off of me. Get off me. Agile Monk is with us tonight. Good to see you, Agile Monk. Kevin King says, I like the look of this one. Wonder if the game mechanics and lore measure up. So far, so good. And of course, I will have a review of the core book for Lancer in the not too distant future. I'll be very honest, probably not before I get to Gen Con. So there is that. So we got our combat basics. So we are going to use a hex map, it looks like. Turn-based combat. Types of action. So we've got move, full, quick. Yeah, we're going to have, it looks like we're going to be tracking heat, which is pretty essential for any sort of mech or mecha game. So we've got cover, we've got harm. Every pilot hopes to avoid as much enemy fire as possible, but they know this truth. Sooner or later, someone's going to punch a few holes in your kit. There are 4 types of damage pilots need to reckon with: explosive, energy, kinetic, and burn. We have little icons after those as well. I would think that the mech combat would probably be a little bit lighter than, let's say, Battletech. W Forge is curious. I wonder how this will compare to Salvage Union. I would think this is probably far more of a game where probably more of a military vibe to the proceedings. I know it's been a while since I reviewed Salvage Union, but and that is a very cool game. It's got some very cool mechs too. But the premise of that game is that the player characters are trying to protect their home. So that's what they use the mechs and stuff like that for. And they have like a big crawler. I think that's what they called it too. So their home is a big crawler. So here we got gear and systems. So we have weapon tags, size, type, harm type, patterns. So no doubt we have some templates for patterns here on the hex map. Here's our pilot gear. So remember, this was the section that was going to have the most page space when we were looking at the table of contents. So this is a mech catalog, I think. Yep. So these are these just our basic frames, or are these the finished product? Chris Leonard is curious how it compares to the role-playing game Time of War. I am not familiar with that. Kevin King says probably more crunch in this than Salvage Union. Well, certainly in the mech combat, I would say. Kevin King says saying Lancer is less crunchy than Battletech is like saying 5e is less crunchy than Rule Master. Well, I think Kevin meant Roll Master. So is the tax code. Yeah, well, that's kind of like I was gonna say, is the 4 cut off? But no, it's kind of funny how the numbers kind of. I was trying to see, you can see down the side here. But I was gonna say that's like somebody saying, well, you know, squad leader is a lot easier to get into than advanced squad leader. It's like what? I liked squad leader when I was a teenager. Elliot played squad leader a few times. And Elliot's not really a big war gamer, at least not a traditional counter and hex war gamer. Captain Finity says, this book certainly looks nice. I'm fortunate my shelf of shame is already creaking full. Chris Leonard asks, what's the draw, though, seriously, of a mech RPG without miniatures? Lot of appeal. I'll be the first to point out, I have seen people who have a dependence on miniatures in their role-playing games. I'm not necessarily talking about mechs, but miniatures in general. And I've seen them run games with miniatures, and it's sort of like, so where's the role-playing aspect of this? Thought we're playing a role-playing game. Agile Monk says, that's a good one. Played squad leader and advanced squad leader. Yeah, it's like night and day. These look really cool. The Metal Mark. The Monarch. The Swallowtail. That almost looks like I guess it is a tank, if I remember correctly, in Ghost in the Shell. I watched a bunch of the Ghost in the Shell series that they did. I was able to get my hands on them in Japanese with subtitles way back in the day. And they were so good. And then they did kind of wasn't it a reboot where they made the Major like a young girl, like 20 years old or something like that? I wonder what happened to that IP. So it was very cool. I'm trying to remember what was the one that it was the first one. And it was like 15 or 20 episodes too. And if I remember correctly, in Japan, it was like pay-per-view. It's the Laughing Man. That's it. Ghost in the Shell. I think it's considered first gig. So Chris Lundgren says role-playing means many things to others. Some are more tactical thinking, less story-driven. Getting out of the mech is pointless to many. Jeff made a decent reply to my question, but wonder. Well, once again, I mean, the reason why I mentioned that is for myself personally, I'm checking this out. This looks really cool. Now, it could be awful. I don't know. I'll find out more when I read it. But this looks really impressive. And Chris suddenly says, well, what's the point of that? There's no minis. So I was kind of like, well, wait, hold on. Hang on. Shardhouse has been tempted to pick up the mecha hack. Yes, built on the black hack, because they do crave big, stompy robot fun at times. Lancer might work too. Pete Straklich says Arise. Yeah, I think that was the one that they did where they kind of rebooted it, and she's she's supposed to be in her 20s. So Sedated Man has popped on in, said, not much into the mech genre, though I do love Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex. That was it. That was the first one that came out. And at that point, I think it was a pay-per-view per episode in Japan. And it came out, I think it was on Saturdays. And it was like 22 episodes long. It was like a regular anime series. And then I think they did another one and they called that Second Gig. So yes, as we can see, there are a lot of these various different mecha here. So we've got the Sherman. The Sherman is the classic Harrison Armory frame. Any station, nation, world, state, stellar, or interstellar with an Armory fleet supply contract fields a backbone force of Sherman mechs. Wonder if they're kind of using it like the Sherman tank. The Sherman is designed to carry a range of Harrison Armory main battle line energy weaponry with a rugged, versatile reactor to back it up. After the GMS SP-1 Everest, the Sherman is the second most common mech in the core systems. So common that GMS has recently begun equipping its stock models with more ablative and wave-scattered defenses, specifically to deal with hostile actors fielding Shermans. So we got our core stats. We get our traits. So the Sherman gains +1. I'm not positive what that little icon's supposed to mean. On engineering checks and saves. When you stabilize the Sherman or it exceeds its heat cap, it benefits from soft cover until the start of your next turn. It's got 3 mounts, a flex mount, main mount, heavy mount. Nice. And there's got to obviously be ways for you to completely make these your own. Yes, the Tachikoma. I think I mispronounced it. But yes, those are cool. Actually, I know we're sitting here talking about Ghost in the Shell. We're looking at Lancer. But if you've seen what they used to do is they used to have almost like a commercial break, but it wasn't really a commercial break. And they would have like these little like minute-long stories with the Tachikoma, or however it's pronounced. And if you've seen Ghost in the Shell, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're like, I have no clue. I have no idea, Jeff. Standalone complex. Yes, that was the first one. We were talking about that previously. But yeah, I didn't watch Arise. I think that was like 6 parts. I think it was kind of like an OVA series. But I'm kind of curious. I'll have to, you know what? After the show, I'm going to have to take a look. Because most anime nowadays just flies right under my radar. I don't have a solid adult to recommend me, stuff that's not going to be all fan service and just goofy stuff that I'm a little too old for. I think I've mentioned this before. My favorite anime of all time, and I've heard it pronounced a couple of different ways, Planet ES or Planetes. And I highly, highly recommend checking it out. My nephew Cameron is an anime fan, and I turned him onto it, and he was like, wow, Uncle Jeff, he said, that is one of the best animes I've ever seen. I'm like, yep, that it is. Here is our Game Master section. Lancer is designed for a group of 3 to 5 players, excluding the GM. You can play with more players or fewer, but a larger group generally means each player will get less time in the spotlight. Additionally, combat can take a long time or become tricky to manage with too many players. That's a given with almost any role-playing game, especially anything that's got any level of crunch. Each player needs a character sheet, a pencil, a D20, and a handful of D6s. Accuracy and difficulty rarely go higher than +4, so it's unlikely a player will need more than 5 or 6 D6s. Okay. So information about the first session, building a narrative, mission hooks, running the game. There's 2 golden rules. I love how the second one is always round up. It's a golden rule. So here we are once again getting some information about the core mechanics of the game. So talking about skill checks, failing forward. There we go. So I'm taking a guess that the default of a failed roll is not just automatic failure. Communicating stakes, pacing, character progression. W4J asks, anyone remember the Heavy Gear role-playing game? I do. I remember taking a peek at it. I remember stuff like Phoenix Command. Man, I just had so much money I just wasted on it. Not to say that, it was a terrible game. If I seem to recall it was, but I just had so much disposable income just to go blow money on splat books and core books and stuff that I never ran. But I did steal a bunch. I'm sorry, did crib a lot of things for my games. So we got our NPC section here. Building NPCs. Classes by role. So we have artillery, controllers, defenders, strikers, support. So as an example, we have Ace. The first person to embody the Ace archetype was Serafina Mardell, an auxiliary pilot active during the liberation of Verdana. Knights of the Chassis and Sky, aces like Serafina throw their mechs into battle with high-speed strafing runs, agile maneuvers, and reckless feats of daring. Cocky and self-assured, aces relish a good duel. Aha. So these are our NPCs as far as their styles. It's kind of what I'm getting out of this. The Breacher. Notoriously effective in boarding operations, the Campbell Orbital Dynamics CO Mark III is often seen in the arsenals of suborbital planetary defense forces and their pirate counterparts. Originally, the CO designation is an abbreviation of Combat Orbital, but unofficially, the CO3 goes by a different name, the Can Opener, inspired by the call sign of Valeria Rojas Sarnik, one of the most storied CO3 pilots. JD Sewell 3002 says, Jovian Chronicles from DP9 was Space Mecha versus the Votoms. I'm trying to remember, what was we're talking late 80s, early 90s. There was a mech role-playing game that it was almost, I would say it was almost like Rollmaster for science fiction and mecha and stuff like that. I'm trying to remember. I remember I picked it up and it was like, wow, this is just all crunch. It's like, where's the role-playing aspect of this? It is a role-playing game. And it wasn't Phoenix Command. JD still says Mech Warrior. No. Mech Warrior was more role-playing game. Of course, I'll think about it 10 minutes after we wrap up the show. So we have special classes, human, squad, mercenary, pirate, spacer. I think now we're going to get into our info about the setting, a golden age of a kind. The following section briefly explores the history of Union from its foundation to the present day, from Union's own point of view. Oh, well. Oh, I guess it's going to be maybe a little one-sided, maybe colored in a certain direction then. Major coalitions of the Third Committee. Man, there's plenty in here. And, artwork throughout, very cool, very nice. Like I said, it's got more of a comic book style to it. But you can see this is packed with content. Raven says the silhouette system from Jovian Chronicles, Heavy Gear, and Tribe 8. Such a damn fine, elegant systems. Very cool for mech action. Raven says he ran a Macross one-shot with it. I had the Robotech RPG. A few releases. Hell, I had, what was it, the first release from Palladium? The Mechanoids, which was kind of cool. And then it was one of those role-playing games that just got way too much power bloat. It was like, okay, well, this is the third book. It's like, oh, well, now, everybody stomps everything that came before it. So it looks like we've got different places. It's like different cultures. I wonder if we got aliens in this. Maybe not. Yeah, very nice. Notable non-state actors. Well, maybe we do have aliens because that kind of, unless they're wearing some sort of a mask there. Get into the pilots, Lancers. PCs aren't just any old pilots, though. They're the best of the best Lancers. Across the galaxy, Lancer has become a catch-all name for exceptionally daring and skilled mech pilots, similar to the flying aces of the past. Not all pilots are Lancers. Most are just good at what they do. But all Lancers are pilots. Nowhere is Lancer considered an official rank or classification. Lancers are set apart by ability, talent, training, luck, skill, reputation, or some combination of these qualities. They aren't qualified as Lancers by any medal, certification, or promotion. It's simply an appellation given to exceptional pilots based on time in the saddle and performance in the field. It says, a galaxy full of heroes. So, some examples of different pilots, or Lancers, I guess I should say. Chris Leinrod says they played the Robotech miniatures game, but they had fun, but it was riddled with issues. Hey, Stray Kismet's with us. Good to see you once again. Yeah, Robotech miniatures. That was one of the reasons why I do not provide any coverage for Palladium. You can look into that fiasco with their Kickstarter and then some other shit that went down. And it's like, nope, no thanks. Not the sort of person I want to help promote. So we've got some backer characters. That's kind of cool. And it shows what page they're on. Oh, that's wild. And then once again, here is our character sheet, pilot side and the mech side. All right. So that is a peek inside Lancer from Massif Press and Dark Horse. Very cool. I'm looking forward to diving on into this. It should be pretty wild. But once again, as I mentioned, don't expect to see the review until after Gen Con, because I do have a queue of stuff. So keep that in mind. Age of Adventure has popped on in as well. Good to see ya. All right. Like I said, once again, Lancer, Massive Press, hardcover carries an MSRP of $60. It does come with the PDF. I noticed that. If you want to just get the PDF alone, you can do so for $25. Do want to mention the PDF, to my knowledge, is the same exact book, just has different cover art. This is new cover art. So if you were like, I'm going to pick up the PDF, and you see it's got different artwork with a bunch of characters on it, that's the book. It's not something different, just so you know. All righty then. So what is cooking next week? Well, I did see that in Liberty's Shadow for Rivers of London shipped out today. So that is now in the mail from Chaosium Inc. I'm thinking we should have it here by Thursday. And if that's the case, that's what we're going to look at on Thursday. You might recall it is Monte Cook Games month here at the Gaming Gang. And on Monday's show, we're going to take a look at High Noon at Midnight. This is a Weird West. I think it's mainly horror. It's kind of funny because that's pretty much what was sent along from Monte Cook Games. Everything has a horror angle to it. But this is for Cypher System. You have to have the Cypher System rule book in order to utilize it. But that's not going to stop us from taking a first look at it. Because once again, you may recall, I don't have a copy of the Cypher System core rule book. So that'll be on Tuesday. Now, it is possible that the new releases for Paizo that are scheduled for the 31st also show up next week. And I know a lot of folks out there very excited about the second edition of Starfinder, which part of that package is going to be the new core book, player core. If that shows up, that is what we'll look at on Thursday. Because I know a lot of people are really curious about that. Far more people are curious about that than they would be, say, the new Rivers of London book. So I also received this from Green Feet Games. It is the Pirate Republic Africa Gambit. And I'll tell you right now, this is one big ass box. As you can see. We're going to take a peek at this on Wednesday. So we are actually going to take a look at a board game, which, we still do from time to time, on next Wednesday's show. Here's the back. The back of it. So no shrink. So Chris Lundgren says, yay, a board game. Chris Lundgren's like the only person in chat who ever seems to be excited. We're going to do a board game. Everybody else is like, yeah, I guess I'll just show up and hang out and chat. All right. So that's what's happening next week. That's it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, bigger thank you, because Not only were you keeping me company, but keeping each other company while I'm doing the news or flipping through a book or doing unboxing, what have you. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Really do appreciate you taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Over 2,200 of them. Yowza. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Also let you know when I share other videos, such as this week's review of the Dwarf Player's Guide from my friends over at Cubicle 7 Games. And of course, yes, this is for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So stay tuned. You will be seeing this within the next couple of days. I should say my review of it. All right. Raven says one day they're going to make it to Gen Con. Hey, if any of you are going to be at Gen Con, you see me roaming around, say hello. I was almost considering maybe doing like a secret Saturday get together where it wouldn't be so secret. All you'd have to do is ask where we're going. But maybe get some people together to hang out. I don't know if the Madman's planning on going to Gen Con this year, but yeah. I have people come up and say hi to me and stuff all the time. Mark Hunt has popped on into chat. Welcome, Mark. So anyway, so there is that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Gen Con. I'm excited. I always am. It's my favorite convention every year, year in, year out. All right. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope each and every single one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.